evening, everyone, and welcome to Open Forum. I am one of your many hosts. Your main host, Josie Harrison, is with us. She's going to be joining us hopefully during the show. We've had some technical problems. In the meantime, if you're watching us from the Philippines right now at 9 a.m., New York, 9 p.m., Las Vegas, 6 p.m., thank you for joining us. We have fantastic candidates, and there are so many of us who are looking forward to this discussion because we have two of the candidates for Congress in the state of Nevada. We only get 4 congressional seats in Nevada. You know how important this is. 2 of these seats, there are 2 Republicans going against 2 Democrat incumbents, and these Republicans have a fantastic shot, and it's really important that they get a chance to give their message out. Obviously, a lot of us on this show want to get the conservative voices out there because so many of those voices are stifled in the media today. Joining us first off the bat is, soon to be Congressman for the 3rd District of Nevada, Dan Rodimer. I'm going to allow Victoria Tambuting to handle his introduction because, Victoria, you have gotten to know Dan quite well.
All right. Aren't you going to say hi to your co-host, Charlotte?
Well, hi. Oh my, well, you know, I just found out I was introducing everybody. Victoria, why don't you take it from here and then we'll come back.
All right. Okay. So, hi, Sharon Tanyag. How are you?
We're doing great, Victoria.
Hi, Dan. Okay. Dolly De Leon, the other co-host. All right. Hi. And of course, Mitch Lozada. How are you?
Hi.
The youngest in the group. All right.
Yay, Mitch.
Now, okay, I have the distinct pleasure. What happened to Dan? Oh, there you go. I have this distinct pleasure and honor to introduce our very special guest tonight. I have been following his campaign since the last time up to now. So I kind of know what kind of person he is because I see him at home, I see him out, and this guy, I don't know why, wherever he goes, let me tell you this, I swear, he brightens up the room and makes it so exciting. I'm telling you, I don't know why these people, when they see him, they want to hug him. Would you believe? So everybody who sees him wants to hug him, and is 6'4" tall. But really, because he's so approachable, he's so nice. That's why, it's not hard to talk to him. He's a great guy. And he's a father of now 6 children. Your baby is Ruby, right?
Ruby Hayes, I think she's 6 days old.
Yeah, 6. See, brand new dad. That's his 6th child. And let me tell you this, I don't really think Dan needs to be introduced because everybody knows him. You see him on TV every day. So he's famous and infamous. And let me tell you, I think he's the brand new Teflon King because they throw everything at him and nothing seems to stick. So without further ado, okay, let me introduce to you CD3, Congressional District 3 candidate, Dan Rodimer. Welcome to the show, Dan.
Victoria, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited. I do apologize if it's a little loud. They're doing a fundraiser for me at the same time, and there's about 100 people out there, so it might be a little loud. I apologize.
Yeah, but thank you for accommodating us because I know you have another event now. So I'm really grateful because the Filipinos would love to hear from you. I know yesterday, how did you find the event of Asian American Filipinos for Trump? How did you find that event? And you were the special guest.
It was incredible. There was over 100 people there, fired up, excited about this race, excited about President Trump, and I think I probably did about 100 hugs. About 100
Yeah,
hugs.
I know.
I was one of them.
And you're brave to do that. I want Dolly and Sharon and Mitch and our other guests to each have a chance to jump in. Dolly, did you have a question for Dan?
Well, I have not prepared any question, but what was really bothering me about election in Nevada is this. The mail-in ballots. And I honestly believe that the Democrat Party is going to rig this election. Now, Big Dan, what are you doing, or what are we doing as Republicans to stop what is going to be disastrous for the election results? Like, even dead people are voting. Mickey and Minnie Mouse are voting. What are we going to do about this? Or have we done something about this?
Well, it's a great question. And I get this question every day. The fact is, the issue of mail-in ballots and ballot harvesting is, very, very worrisome. What we're doing to combat it is right now, the Trump victory team, the RNC, the county party, the state party is out. I mean, they are out every day knocking on doors. They've knocked on, I want to say, a little over 1 million doors. The Democrats, they've knocked on zero doors they've knocked on. We are getting the word out there. This is unlike any other election. We have armies of people out there making phone calls. I think we've made a little over 2.5 million phone calls, a little over 3 million text messages. And the difference is, usually the Democrat Party relies on the culinary union to go out and knock on doors for them and ballot harvest. Unfortunately, and I feel very, very bad, in regards to all of our culinary workers being laid off, but there's over 38% of the culinary union have unfortunately been laid off, or they've left the state. These are the folks that go out and the majority of them go out and they ballot harvest. So right now, ballot harvesting is legal. It is legal in our state. And, the Republicans are going to be doing the same exact thing as the Democrats. You have to fight fire with fire. You never hear me talking about it, but I know for a fact, talking to the Republican Party, they're going to do the same thing. And, it's going to be a turnout issue. Right now, we've gotten the polling back. I talked to the White House on Friday of last week, and they're fired up. They've never seen, so much camaraderie between the county party, state party, and the Trump team. They're working together. Michael McDonald, Dave Sajak, they've been working. And, we're seeing it. We're seeing the fruits of the labor, because in the polling that has come back, we just got our polls back, and, Susie Lee's approval rating is at a 38%. That's the lowest in the country, the lowest. And you're doing good when I'm sorry.
No, I said, wow.
Yeah, it's really
the lowest
incredible.
In the
but
country.
The president, I met with the president about 3 weeks ago. I had a meeting with him, and he told me, he was brutally honest. He said, Big Dan, the fact is if you win CD3, I win Nevada. And then he told me, if I lose CD3, I lose Nevada. So the fact is, it's so important. And that's why the president is coming out again. He's going to be out here again. He could be anywhere in the country. He could be in the states that, Arizona and other states, but he's coming here. He spent 2 days in Nevada 3 weeks ago, and now he's coming out again because he knows that we can win it. And it's not, and I tell everybody, it's not going to be just the president that's going to win. We're going to win this seat, but it's going to be down ballot. We're going to get folks like April Becker and Carrie Buck and Josh Dowden. All these folks are working very, very hard. And, I work with them all the time. We go out, we do events together, we talk to folks together, and we get the word out there. And right now, the momentum in Nevada is unlike anything we've ever seen before. It really is.
So Dan, you are really confident that we're going to flip Nevada red again?
I am extremely confident that, folks are going to go out and it's going to be, what this is, if everybody could go like this, it's on the Zoom call right now. Everybody go like this. You guys see me? Go like this.
Yes.
Like this. You know what that is? That's a red wave.
Red wave. Okay. Red wave. Oh, all right. That's a tsunami
Okay.
red. That's a tsunami red.
All right, Mitch.
Yeah, speaking of all the like armies and getting people motivated, I know that you met up with some of my friends from UNLV, the Students for Life, Rebels for Life. And so can you want to speak to like any more of the young people trying to get out in the vote? Because normally it's the Democrats who have the young vote or whatever, or, you know, do we have a strong conservative voice, conservative voice out here going into this election? Do you know if that's happening right now?
It's unlike anything I've ever seen. Our volunteers, you know, we have just the volunteers we have in our particular race. I want to say there's probably 30 or even more volunteers that are from UNLV. Heck, we got kids that are in high school that are coming out, and they're fired up because they see what's going on. You know, the kids that are in school, you know, the younger, you know, this morning I was just out at a Power to Parent event, you know, because the parents want to get their kids back to school. But it wasn't just the parents. There was probably 30 kids that were in high school, freshmen, all the way. In fact, there was younger than that. You know, they're frustrated and they see this, they understand it. And they're like, hey, this is affecting us now because we're not, you know, we can't go back and play sports. We can't go back and see our friends. And, you know, you're getting more and more people involved, and unlike any other race in history. And I know everybody's heard this before where people say, you know what, this is the most important race of your lifetime. But the fact is, it is the most important race of your lifetime. You know, do we want to go back to work? Do we want to go back to our normal lives? Well, how do we do that? How do we go back to where we were? I mean, Nevada was hit with the hardest recession in the last recession. I mean, it took us longer than any other state to come back. And we know that because we're the hospitality hub of the world. I mean, people come here from all over to visit Nevada. And, you know, how are we going to reopen in a safe, responsible way? What are we going to do after this to bring back jobs? Well, you know, I tell everybody, look, we're going to bring back jobs from China, manufacturing from China and India and Mexico. We're going to do it here. President Trump has done a great job. You know, he's been able to implement, you know, tax cuts. He's been able to cut regulations. I was with Ivanka Trump today. You know, for every one regulation that he's put in effect, he's taken away 23 regulations. And I'm a small business owner. You know, I understand how hard it is to make payroll. You know, and right now with COVID, you know, I own a restaurant, and, you know, 60% of the restaurants in Nevada that closed are not going to reopen.
Yeah.
And this is scary because and it's not only the restaurant owners, but it's the folks that work, you know, at these restaurants. You know, it's going to affect them. It's going to affect their kids. And
Nevada had a thriving economy 10 months ago. And a lot of folks who are conservative believe if we're going to get right back to that, the way to do it is with conservative ideology as opposed to adding all kinds of socialist regulations. Are you finding that young people in Nevada are starting to learn the difference between capitalism and socialism?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. You know, I was just talking to one of our volunteers. She's a freshman in college. And she understands. She said, you know, I want to go out and get a job when I graduate from UNLV. But how am I going to do it when there's no jobs available? You know, they understand that, look, when I get my paycheck and there's a huge chunk taken out, you know, when you get your first paycheck, I remember when I got out of college and I got my first paycheck, I was like, wow, they took that huge amount. Why is this? And my parents said, well, you need to start voting Republican because the only way it's going to go down is if we cut those taxes.
Dan, show us your hat. Show us your cap.
Oh, I just saw this one. Yes, I'm sitting here at a friend's house where they're doing a big fundraiser. And I saw this hat. Let me show it to you.
Oh my goodness.
Socialism distancing.
That is great.
Perfect.
All right, Sharon, do you have a question for Dan?
Yes, while we're talking, but this is a little bit of a different route just to know Big Dan better, or for the audience to know him better. So I read your bio. So being a football player in the past and a great wrestler, what are the things have you learned being an athlete that now you are applying to politics?
Well, I'm extremely competitive. You know, anything I do 110 miles an hour. You know, this is the most humbling experience of my life. Being a former WWE pro wrestler and living that particular lifestyle, and now having folks come to me every day, you know, parents calling me, telling me that their kids are in depression, that their children tried to commit suicide because they're at home every day, that the parents are going through depression because they're home all day trying to teach their child online, and they're not educators. They're doing the best that they can. The fact that they can't go back to work now because they're at home every day with their children trying to tutor them. And, you know, they have a choice. It's either they hire a tutor or daycare so that they can go back to work, or they just don't go back to work. And, you know, folks can't afford to do that. You know, what I've learned over the years is, you know, I am a showman. Okay. I was a WWE pro. I was the worst wrestler in the WWE, but I was very good on the microphone. And, you know, and when I came into politics, you know, I wasn't planning on running for United States Congress. Originally, you know, folks ask me all the time, Dan, why did you get into politics? And my daughter, you know, during the Parkland shooting, she was friends with a bunch of the little girls. And my daughter watched the Parkland shooting live on social media, on Snapchat Live, one of her little girlfriends running down the hallway being shot at. After that, you know, I came back, I wrote a school safety bill. Then they put me on the school safety advisory committee. Then they put me on the faith and community outreach to protect all of our houses of worship. And, you know, and then in August of 2019, I was approached by the vice president and leader Kevin McCarthy. And they said, Dan, you know, we need somebody who people can relate to. We need somebody, you know, who you know, knows how to read and write a bill. We need somebody who's Trump-like. And the fact is, we need somebody who's good on the microphone. And right now, we don't have a voice here in Nevada. We don't have a Dan Crenshaw that goes out and goes on Fox News every day and fights for the people of Texas. And we need somebody that will, you know, have that backbone that will fight for Nevada and not be afraid to go on CNN or MSNBC and talk about the issues. Because the fact is Republicans don't watch CNN and Democrats don't watch Fox. And, you know, leader Kevin McCarthy, he sat me down a few weeks ago and he said, Big Dan, we're going to make you the face of Fox News. And I said, I don't want to be the face of Fox News. I want to be the face of CNN and MSNBC. And, you know, they said, well, Dan, you know, they'll crush you. They'll crush you on these stations. And I said, let them crush me. But the fact is, you know, by going on CNN and MSNBC, you know, and speaking to all the people, you know, I might convert 2% of the people, but that's how you do it.
I can see Mitch is thinking exactly about what you're saying, because it's all about how do you reach the folks that might not know what your message is. And I do want to give you a chance to give your message in a moment. Mitch, what is it you're thinking? Because you wanted to ask him something there.
No, I mean, I do myself. I have a YouTube channel and I try to speak to the people, try to bring a lot of voices. A lot of my things is talking about cancel culture. And so I definitely agree with you about, you know, being a face on this, you know, campaign and trying to reach out to other people, because for my generations and a lot of Asian Americans or whatever minority, they're default Democrats, and they don't have to be default. It's just what they've been told. And so definitely we need to reach out to as best as we can. We have 3 weeks, but people just are still in the narrative, right? We know this. Like, people just like, oh, like mainstream media has been propagating that Trump is racist. He hasn't denounced white supremacy. He has denounced it multiple times, and we know that. But some people who don't follow YouTube, don't follow these independent journalists, don't know that. So I was just agreeing with you and nodding my head like, yeah, I totally get what you're saying, with people just what you being wanting to be on CNN and everything. And so, yeah.
But you know what? It comes down to Republicans and Democrats want the same thing. We want the same thing. You know, I love speaking. I prefer to get in front of big groups of Democrats and libertarians and independents, right? The Republicans, you know, we're going to get the Republican vote. But, you know, I went out, I'll give you an example. I went out a few weeks ago and I was in front of probably 50% Republican, 50% Democrat. There's about 50 people. And one woman, she told me right off the bat, she goes, I'm a Democrat. I said, okay. And she said, I have a list of questions for you. And I said, well, give them to me. And she started off with the first question. She said, the wall. You believe in the wall. And, you know, and you're against the immigration issue. And I said, no. I said, in regards to the immigration issue, it's a broken issue. And it needs to be a bipartisan decision. It's very, very sensitive. But the fact is do we need to work on it together so that we can expedite the system? I'm not saying cut the line. What I'm saying is we need to work on it, but it's got to be a system where we work on both sides of the aisle. But right now, the incumbent, the freshman incumbent, she hasn't worked on it at all. And then I said, in regards to the wall, you know, I usually say border security. And the fact is Obama wanted border security. Susie Lee, she voted against border security. And I asked the young lady, I said, you have children? She said, I have 4 children. And I said, well, let me ask you, do you want drug dealers and sex traffickers and human traffickers and cartel members in a sanctuary city in your backyard? Do you want that for your kids? She said, no. She goes, I agree with you. Then she said, guns. You believe in AR-15s. I said, look, I'm a constitutional conservative. And I asked her, do you have a gun? She goes, I have a gun. And I said, you know, because right now are scary times. You probably want to protect your family. She said, yeah. And I said, but the fact is the minute you start taking away one gun, you're going to start taking away all the other guns. And then you won't be able to protect your family. She said, fine, I agree with you there. She said, well, school choice. You want to defund the Clark County School District. I said, no, I'm on the Clark County School Safety Advisory Committee. I want to have the best education here because right now we're ranked number 48 in the union, 48. You think any businesses want to come here? People don't want to come here when they can't send their kids to a good school. You know, and when they have 40 kids in a classroom, I believe in school choice. I believe that I don't care if you're black, white, red, green, male, female, rich or poor, every child deserves a right to a great education. I believe in opportunity scholarships, and that's what I'm going to push when I get to Congress. And then she said, fine, I agree with you there. She said, I have one last question. Abortion. You believe in defunding Planned Parenthood. And I said, look, I'll be honest with you. I got 6 kids. I'm the poster boy for pro-life. But my opponent, she believes in abortion at 9 months. And I'm Catholic, okay? And I do not, you know, I have morals and ethics, and I disagree. But I really disagree in putting federal funds, federal taxpayer funds into, you know, Planned Parenthood. I don't think it's right. And she goes, well, I disagree with you there. And I said, well, look, at the end of the day, you agreed with me on 3 things and you disagreed with me on 1. Let's pretend like we're not Republican, we're not independent, we're not libertarian, you know, we're not Democrat. Let's pretend like you want to vote for what's best for your kids and your family. You voted, you gave me 3 votes and you gave her 1. Who's best for your family? And she said, fine, I'll vote for you. But that's how I convey them. I don't argue with anybody. I just talk.
Big Dan, both Susie Lee and Stephen Horsford voted to impeach the president of the United States right at a time that this virus was starting to come onto the world stage. And Democrats seem to be all about, oh, this is a distraction, that's a distraction. Well, could there have been a bigger distraction than putting the president through an impeachment process, which was doomed to fail anyway, at a time when we were going through this?
You know, Susie Lee, you know, I hoped when she got elected that she would be the moderate that she claimed she was going to be. And I was interviewed by The Sun, and they're very liberal. The Sun is very, very liberal.
Las Vegas.
And they said, well, Susie Lee claims she's a moderate. And I said, well, I have a question for you. I said, do you think AOC would consider herself a moderate? He said, no. He said, absolutely not. And I said, well, Susie Lee voted with AOC 95% of the time. That's scary that we have a freshman congresswoman who claimed she was a moderate, but voted with AOC 95% of the time. That it's frustrating for me. And that's why I'm so vocal about it. I don't go after Susie Lee for any of the, I can go on and put commercials up that go after her family, like she went after mine, but I won't do it. I don't believe it's morally or ethically right. But I will go after her for lobbying to get $5.6 million in PPP funds for her business. And then lying about it on MSNBC when they called her out, and then being caught. And, I'm going to hit her on that. I'm going to hit her on the fact that, behind closed doors in a pretty much a top secret meeting in late January, before the president shut down flights to China, she found out about COVID. She found out about the economic impact in what industries around the country would be negatively affected. What did she do the first day after that meeting? Did she go to the seniors and tell them to prepare? Did she go to the schools and the teachers and tell them how to prepare? Did she go to the small businesses and tell them how to prepare? No. She sold off all her stock, right? And she bought up big grocery box store, different pharmaceutical stocks that she knew were going to go up, and she made a ton of money. I don't care if you're Republican, Democrat, Independent, across the board. The fact is nobody wants a self-serving politician trying to line their own pockets. And that's what I'm fighting for.
Dan Rodimer, we're so glad you joined us. We need to find out if one of your cohorts is on the line. Victoria, do you know if we have Jim Marchant nearby?
Jim is on the waiting room. Okay, he's gonna come in. Actually, I wanted to ask Dan one more question.
Yes.
Just one question. Dan, you're big on Blue Lives security. What can you say about the endorsements by the police?
I am so honored. My father was a police officer, and we received the largest law enforcement endorsement in Nevada. And it was the first time a Republican received this endorsement. And I believe it's 28 associations and 100 organizations. And the reason being is because Susie Lee, just last week with the HEROES Act, she voted to defund police by $600 million. And, the people here in Congressional District 3, they don't want less police officers. They want more police officers. And that's what I want. I want my family to be protected, just like I want your family to be protected.
Exactly.
Right.
I just want to tell this to Dan. Your wife did a very great commercial. Please tell her. I just love that commercial where she was the main speaker in your ad.
Thanks.
And our best to your families, because families having to go along the campaign for all that it entails. That's why good people are scared to run for office, because of what happened to you and to so many other people. So, kudos to your family.
Thank you.
Okay, so Dan, thank you so much. Would you like to say, we'll give you a minute to say whatever.
And then we also want him to say hello to our next guest.
Yes. All right. So,
well, I want to thank everybody. Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be on here. You can reach me at any time. If anybody in Congressional District 3 that wants to go out and volunteer or wants to make phone calls, I go out. I make it fun. I bring different celebrities over, like Rick Harrison from Pawn Stars, and I brought John Taffer, and sometimes Wayne Allen Root comes out. But I try to make it so it's fun. So if anybody wants to jump on our campaign, please go to danrodimer.com. It's DANRODIMER.com, and please sign up. And or if anybody wants to reach out to me, please call me. But we got Jimmy Marchant coming on. Jim is a very, very good friend of mine. We've been working together. We help each other out. Sometimes we vent to each other. But the fact is Jim is doing a great job. And I'm going to let him take over. So Jim Marchand, great job, brother.
Hey, Big Dan, good job.
All right, I got to take off because we got a big fundraiser right now.
Thank you for joining us.
And
Big
good
Dan
luck.
Diner.
Best of luck.
And
Best of luck.
his website is also where you can donate.
Thank you so much.
Yes,
Bye-bye
please
now.
donate.
All right. So
So now we have Jim Marchand, who is the Republican congressional candidate for District
4.
4. Thank you
more
very much.
years.
There's 2 districts in Nevada that are in a really good position to flip. We want them to flip. This is a conservative show. So Jim Marchand, I'll let all of our hosts have a chance to ask you questions. But first, would you like to spend a minute and a half, 2 minutes explaining what your position is and why you decided that you needed to run for Congress in Nevada?
Well, I decided to run for Congress back in 2015 because I didn't like the direction of our state. We had politicians and unfortunately in my own party, Republican Party, that decided that they wanted to raise our taxes and then implement a ridiculous commerce tax on businesses. And for those of you that don't know what a commerce tax is, it's a tax that is assessed on a business's revenues, not profits. And that's the worst kind of tax that you can implement on a business. So that made me mad, and I decided to challenge a Republican that voted for it. And I beat him 63 to 37% in the primary and went on to win and beat the Democrat in 2016 and served in the Assembly in the 2017 session. Where I was ranked very high as a conservative voting legislator by numerous organizations, and the main one being American Conservative Union was Matt Slapp, is on Fox News all the time. He has an organization called American Conservative Union, and they ranked me the #1 most conservative voting legislator in the Assembly. So I'm proud of that, and I've just got tired of the direction of our country trending more and more towards socialism. And I decided to step up and run for Congress and see if I could, help the people in Congress understand when they pass laws, how it affects small businesses and hurts our economy. So it's kind of why I'm running. I'm an entrepreneur businessman. I had 3 successful technology companies, and I just think that I'm ready to try to help save our country and keep it from becoming Venezuela or Cuba. So we definitely want to do that, and I want to do whatever I can to save our country.
Socialism no bueno. Some of my best friends who are Republican Latinos. Socialism
That's right.
no bueno.
Muy no bueno. No muy bueno. Yeah.
all right, Mitch.
I guess let's go with education, but probably like school choice. I think that's one of the, if we're talking about socialism and talking about educating folks, what do you have to say about school choice and letting people know about what's going on with this election and everything?
Yeah, so education savings accounts or school choice was one of my passions when I was in the Assembly. In 2015, Nevada passed the best school choice or education savings account law in the country. The whole country was watching Nevada and making sure that we got this bill passed and got it funded. However, the unions, teachers unions, SEIU, they sued us because we passed it in the legislature, and they sued us on a couple of counts. One of them was the Blaine Amendment, which means that you can't take public funds or so-called public funds and give them back to the parents because they might send their kids to a religious school. So we actually won on that count. The Supreme Court sided with us on that, and they didn't allow the Blaine Amendment to prevail. But what they did was they said that our lawyers in the Legislative Counsel Bureau weren't smart enough to write the law to fund it properly, which I disagree with. They were nitpicking, and it was ridiculous that they ruled this way. So anyway, what we needed to do was to fix the law according to what they said, which we did. I worked with our LCB in Carson City to make sure that we knew how to fix the law with the language according to the Supreme Court. And all we needed was our governor to bring up that bill during the special session when we decided the Raider Stadium, and he wouldn't do it. So we kind of lost the opportunity there. Then we had another chance in my session, 2017 session, to get it funded once again. And once again, our governor, our Republican governor, failed us miserably on making sure that we could get it funded. So I'm a huge advocate for school choice. I think that finally we have the opportunity to bring in a free market capitalism competition to our failing public schools to either make them up their game and compete and educate our children the way we want, or fail. And you do that with competition. And I was working with a lot of public school. They were ready to come into Nevada and set up shop and provide the education we want for our kids, and we failed them. And that's why it's very important that we elect Republicans this election on November 3rd, because we need to take back over the Assembly and Senate and force our values on our governor. And that's the only way we're going to have a chance to affect our education system here.
Excellent. Fighting that fight early. Go ahead, Dolly.
I just want to ask Mr. Marchant. We heard from Dan Rodimer earlier that about 60% of restaurants, this is about employment, possibly will not be able to open again. When elected, Mr. Marchant, what are you going to do about this when you get to Congress?
Well, yes, as we all know, President Trump is an amazing businessman. And what he's done with our economy once he got elected in 2016 was amazing. We haven't seen anything like that here in America in a long, long time, certainly since Reagan in 1980. But he has built the most amazing economy that we've seen in a long time. And what I plan to do is to be reinforcements for him to back him up and vote for bills that support his America First agenda, which will get our economy roaring again. And that's all we need. First of all, right now, we need to open up Nevada right now. We don't need any more phase 1, 2, 3. We just need to get it open. And we have many, many businesses that are failing, and there are a lot of people suffering and losing their businesses, and it's terrible for our state. And we need to open up Nevada right now. But I will support President Trump's economic policies that gave us a very good economic environment for the past 4 years. And I plan to vote for another tax decrease bill. I plan to vote on more business deregulation, because one of the things that the government does terribly is they put burdensome regulations on businesses to the point where they can't start a business and you can't operate a business. So that's one of the things that I'm going to do when I get to Washington, is support his America First agenda.
Thank you. Thank you, Jim.
Sharon.
Yes. Okay. Mr. Marchant, as an innovator in computer software and telecommunications, we've seen negative effects of playing computer games of children, and using social media, and a big impact on our children. and on their social behavior, especially now is a new normal, having to be an online, having to have an online school. So what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, so I'm not sure that I want government to do anything. That's more of a culture problem, and it's more of a something that I think the parents should deal with as far as computer games. As far as technology on our culture and on our society, and specifically, I'm talking about like the censorship of the big social media companies. I think there is something that we can do there. There are a couple of avenues that we can take. One of them is done through the executive branch, President Trump, through an executive order, and another one is obviously done through the legislative branch, and Congress needs to deal with it. One of the things I did in my business background was I founded the Federation of Internet Service Providers Association because my business was technology. And one of the bills that I helped usher through was the Communications Decency Act. And that was back in the mid to late 90s. And that is the bill, and Section 230 in the bill is what the social media giant companies are hiding behind. And when we wrote that bill, we wrote it so broad back then that it was easy to kind of find loopholes and that kind of thing. So number one, I think that President Trump can do something with an executive order while we go through the legislative process to tighten up that bill, and specifically Section 230, and not have the social media giants be able to censor us or hide behind being a journalist company and censor like they are. So that's the expertise that I bring to the table once I get to Congress.
You really do bring different sides of the spectrum, because back when you were presenting that bill, you were trying to make sure that the internet would stay free and untapped for ordinary citizens. So that was a wonderful thing. You wanted the internet to stay free. And now you're also looking at, okay, these tech giants, if there's abuses and they're hiding behind anything, we got to get rid of that.
That's exactly right. And, when I evaluate bills, my first thought is make it as free as possible. But when we did that with the Communications Decency Act, it was made a little bit too broad, and we need to kind of rein that back in a little bit. So I'm all for doing that. And as far as keeping the internet free, back then the government, the FCC specifically, wanted to classify the internet under Title II, which would regulate the heck out of it. It would actually make it a utility very similar to Ma Bell, the phone company back then. And I believe that it would have snuffed the life right out of the internet at that time had we not prevailed and kept them from classifying the internet as a utility, because it would have killed it. So that's something that I'm proud of, that we prevailed with the association that I was president of. That was one of the big things that we did, because I don't think the internet would be what it is today without that.
All right.
Victoria.
So I have a question. Yeah. Hi, Jim.
Hey, Victoria, how are you?
I have been following his campaign from the beginning too. Yeah. And this guy is really great. I swear, because he's really conservative. Nobody can question that. Nobody can doubt that. So this is my question, Jim. Is there anything that you are going to do for the veterans?
Oh, absolutely. I will do everything and anything to make sure that veterans have everything that they need to live, and to live comfortably. They served our country, and they deserve our best. And any bill that comes across my desk, it will be very much pro-veteran. I can promise you that.
All right. So just as a follow-up, it's almost every night that there's something happening in the Strip, something not good. Like last night, they had to shut down because somebody had a gun and started shooting.
Yeah, one of my friends just got beat up there last night.
Oh my
Oh,
gosh.
my.
In the hospital.
Oh, my.
All right. So what do you, how are we going to support our local police enforcers?
First of all, I am very much pro law enforcement. I think that we don't need to be considering defunding our law enforcement. I think that's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. I never thought in my lifetime that I would hear that legislators would even consider defunding our law enforcement. And so we need to give them more ability to keep our streets safe. And right now we need more manpower, especially on the Strip right now. And a lot of bad things are happening down there. And the police officers that are there, they need more help. And if I'm elected, I will not be defunding our police officer departments and law enforcement like my opponent. My opponent is a radical socialist. He wants to defund our police, and there's a stark contrast between what he wants and what I want. So I will definitely be helping the police, and I also was endorsed by all of the police associations that Dan was talking about. We both got endorsed together, and like he said, we were the first Republicans to be endorsed by the police unions in a long, long time. So we're very proud of that, and they're not going to regret it.
It's exciting that shift has finally happened. And some of these unions and some of the races, I don't know if this was yours specifically, but some of the unions gave out endorsements and then more things happened and they had to retract them.
Yeah.
Because they just know if you're not going to support law enforcement, if you're defunding police.
Right.
Absolutely.
When all these riots and looting were happening all over Portland, Chicago, Seattle, talking about defunding police department, do you know if there was also decrease in police were resigning, captains, chiefs were resigning in different states. Do you know if that ever happened in Nevada, where there is a decrease in employment or people resigning? Was there?
Yes, I talked to a lot of law enforcement people, and they're demoralized right now because of what's happening. You know, when you have the enemy, I call them, that can spit on you, that can call you names, that can throw things at you, and you can't do anything to protect yourself, that's awfully demoralizing. I don't see how they do their job. And that's a shame. We've got to make it to where there are severe consequences for doing that for these guys. That's the only way we're going to build back up our police department and get our best and brightest to join them again. And we've got to do that at all costs. And that's why I'm so pro law enforcement.
Did you ever talk to Sheriff Lombardo about this issue? Have you ever talked to him about this? I heard it's a
Yes, I have talked to him a lot. And actually, he's doing a pretty good job so far. If you look at when the BLM started their, marches and supposedly peaceful protest, Sheriff Lombardo did a good job in kind of keeping it to where it got to the point like in a Portland or in a Seattle or Minneapolis. So I'm very pleased with what he's done. He's doing the best he can do on the Strip right now. And we just don't have a lot of good people that are visiting Las Vegas right now. We're getting a lot of gang members that are coming to Las Vegas. So we're going to have to deal with that. I'm sure that Sheriff Lombardo is figuring out what he needs to do to keep all of this this mess that's happening on the Strip right now.
Do you think something is going to be disastrous when November 3rd comes? I've been hearing it, that we have to be prepared here in Nevada, here especially on the Strip in Las Vegas.
Yeah, we're going to be prepared no matter who wins. If President Trump wins, they're going to lose their minds, and we're going to have to be very prepared for it. And I think that President Trump is aware of that. I think that he is going to be prepared to use whatever means, whether it's the National Guard, if the local mayors and governors won't do something about it, I think he's going to have to step in and do it himself. If he loses, they're going to be coming after us conservatives. So
Exactly.
That's a scary thought. Like every single person on this show, and you especially, you're a politician, you definitely have a mark on your back.
Absolutely.
People do worry. It's like, is it safe to say, I'm going to vote Republican, I'm going to vote red? Or do we need, I mean, everything we've said on Facebook is recorded. If the election goes to the Democrats, are we going to have our individual freedom of speech protected, or are we going to be persecuted?
We're going to be persecuted. And it doesn't matter what you do on Facebook. I mean, if you're registered, even, they can look at your registrations. So they know, who's a Republican, who's typically conservative. So we will be targeted. There's no doubt in my mind. That's why we have to prevail in this election. It's not going to be pretty for us American-loving people that love our Constitution and love what our founders gave us. It's not going to be pretty for us.
Yeah, I think we have to educate some of our viewers and our listeners. I've always said that the reason why people vote certain ways because they really don't know the agenda of both parties. Like Filipino Americans, our conservative values align with the Republican ideologies and tenets.
I have many good friends.
Without
Are you drunk, Dolly?
No.
I think we're having a little bit of Wi-Fi issue.
I think we should tell them, vote Republicans.
We only have 3 minutes left. So let's really quickly go to everybody. Mitch, let's go with you first. 30 seconds, Mitch. Is there something you wanted to say about your talks tonight with these candidates?
No, just really quick. I just came from California. I was actually Beverly Hills at the MAGA rally. And so I see it all over California. People are becoming unsilent. And so I'm hoping that same level of enthusiasm and motivation and momentum is going to come here in Vegas. I would love to see Trump rallies and Trump caravans every weekend. And so I don't know if Jim, if you have the same idea that we're going to turn red, but hopefully we can get the word out there that let's make Nevada, Las Vegas red again.
Yeah, absolutely. And I agree 100%. The enthusiasm is there. I see it. You see it. The only thing we need to worry about is this mail-in balloting fiasco. So I would encourage people to vote in person if they can. If they have to use their mail-in ballot, please drop it off at the registrar's office. Don't go through the mail. So that'll protect our votes. And we have to be very vigilant in this voting process, particularly this cycle.
Yep.
All right. So, okay. Sorry, Charlotte. So I just want to say thank you to my beautiful friends watching now, Rowena Banyaga, Gidget de Guzman, Miles Oliveros, and Joe Devlin. We had a great conversation tonight. So we'll give the floor later to Jim. But before that, let's go to Sharon.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Merchant and Dan Rodimer. I've learned so much from you guys and definitely going to be voting in person. And I want everyone to vote in person because I'm going to do that. I'm going to bring all my whole family to do that.
Good.
Tell our viewers and listeners to please vote for Dan Rodimer and also Jim Marchand. These are the kind of candidates that we need to help our president. We are Republicans because we believe the Republicans have the ideologies that will make this country great, just like President Trump is always saying, make this country great again or keep America great again.
Right.
I'm still registered Democrat, but I'm voting Republican down the line. Please look at the fact Nevada only has 4 congressional seats. 2 of them can be turned with Jim Marchand and Dan Rodimer vote in person. and
Right.
vote Republican. Vote red.
Vote
Do
red.
early voting. Do early voting. Don't wait November
Okay.
3rd. Okay.
Yeah.
Last few words from Jim. Invite them to vote for you.
Okay, so love to have everybody's support. If you can volunteer, we certainly could use that. We certainly could use donations. Also, you can go to my website, jimmarchant.com. It's JIMMARCHANT.com. Contact me. My phone number's on there. My email address is on there. And help us all we can. We truly are trying to save our country from becoming Venezuela or Cuba. And I'm just going to fight to the end to make sure that that doesn't happen.
Amen.
Thank
And
you,
to that,
Jim. And God bless America.
God bless
God
America.
bless America.
Josie Harrison, we miss you.
Thank you.
Yes, Josie, we miss you. Thank
Social
you, Johan.
distancing.
Thank you, Charlotte, Sharon, and Victoria.
Thank
Vote
you.
Thank
Republican.
you, everyone. Vote red. Make
Thank
America
you all.
red.
Appreciate
This
it.
is the red way. This is a red
Way.
tsunami. Red way.
There you go.
Love you, Nikki. Nikki, I love you.
Love